Hi everyone, my name is Teresa Vodolato and I'm one of the enrollment specialists here at New School of Architecture and Design. And I'm here with Kurt Hunker. He is the acting dean and chair of our architecture and construction management programs here at the school. He has a Master of Architecture from Harvard, a Bachelor of Science in Architecture from Ohio State, and a resume that's probably 10 pages long. So welcome, Kurt. We're really happy to have you today. And please stick around after this webinar. If you wait until the end, we're going to provide all kinds of contact information. We'll discuss scholarships and tuition, steps to apply, and all that good stuff. If you have any questions, there should be a text box where you can type in anything that's on your mind, and we'll be answering those at some point too. Well, enjoy.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for spending part of your morning with us. Happy to be here. Thanks, Teresa. I have to talk a little bit about the school and the graduate programs and what we do here. I think we have a lot of interesting things going on, a lot of exciting programs, and I want to tell you about them. And I'm going to start with this slide. It's of our president, Marvin Malika. Some of you may recognize the name. Marvin has been in architectural higher education all his life, former president of the American Institute of Architects and the Association of Collegiate Schools of Architecture, a widely known, widely respected architectural educator, and we're really thrilled that he's at New School. And that's a quote of his in the upper left-hand corner. And I want to point out the second part of that quote: what we do is valuable to the rest of the world. We really believe that. We really think there's a need for architects, there's a need for good design, there's a need for creative thinking about the built environment. Marvin promotes that. I support that idea, and that's something we really want students to understand and value as they move through the program at New School. Our mission, it's simple: to nurture and inspire design-minded students. You'll hear that phrase, design-minded, often, and you'll hear it because this is what we do at New School. You see on the other side of the screen the degrees. We have them at the graduate and undergraduate level in architecture. That's going to be our focus today. We also offer graduate and undergraduate degrees in construction management. I'm going to talk a little bit about some opportunities there later on. And we have a School of Design that offers degrees in interior architecture, product design, media design, design studies. And we see a lot of interest from graduate students in some of those design courses as well. So design is what we do, and design thinking for design-minded students is where we are. Our philosophy focuses initially and primarily on preparation for practice. When the school began 37 years ago, that was our focus: to prepare students to be effective practitioners, to go out to make a difference in the built environment. That still is our fundamental value, and we do it through a process involving design thinking, project-based learning, the studio system, things that may be familiar already to some of you and new to others. We build the curriculum on what we call our educational pillars, and there are 4 of them, and you see the first of those 4 is preparation for practice, our foundational attribute. We'll talk more about that as we go. Secondly is human welfare. We engage in something we call human-centered design. We put people first, simple way to put it, and we are concerned with how architecture impacts them. We know from studies that well-designed cities actually promote human health, and poorly designed cities literally make people sick. And so we want students to be aware of that and how we do the right thing. We're also interested in environmental empathy. You may hear other terms: sustainable design, green architecture, phrases like that. We've been teaching sustainability about as long as anyone in the US. And it really encompasses everything we do. And we believe that designers need to be stewards of the environment. We need to have an empathy towards this. We need to be aware of resource depletion and to be effective designers in this regard. So for us, it's a pillar. It's that important. Lastly, but not least, urban engagement. We are in downtown San Diego. We consider San Diego our urban laboratory. We're involved in our community. We contribute to the community. The community views us as a resource. And I think that's critical to our identity and a very important part of our curriculum. Some other important facts: accreditation, something that everyone wants to know about. We have the requisite accreditations. The institutional, which is school-wide accreditation, is through WASC, the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. Among the various accreditors across the country at the institutional level, this is considered the gold standard. WASC is one of the most advanced, forward-thinking accreditors, and we value that accreditation. We have, for architecture, a programmatic accreditation through the one National Architectural Accrediting Board, we call them NAB. We were reaccredited in the spring of 2016 for a full 8-year term. That's as good as it gets. We're very proud of that programmatic accreditation, as we are the WASC accreditation as well. We win awards. Our students win awards. We've listed two here. CASH is the Coalition for Adequate School Housing. That's a statewide school design competition. Last year, we took the top 2 places and several honorable mentions after that. The year before, 1st and 3rd. That's something we're very pleased about. And the ASE student competition is a collaboration between our architecture and construction management students in a regional competition that encompasses all the Western states. We've had great success there. We actually began competing at the ASC event in 2013, and as you see, 3 years since then, we've taken home the first place award. So we've been successful in those collaborations as well, and collaborating is something we hear a lot about. We're very keen on that happening because architecture is a collaborative art. Our faculty win awards as well. That work is published in a variety of media at a variety of levels, and we're very proud of what our faculty do, as well as the success our students have had. We're focused on careers and industry. You saw that slide about preparation for practice. We have a dynamite career services team. They work with you throughout your tenure in the program, working on portfolio development, on preparing a CV or a resume. They work with you on interview skills, so you're an effective communicator when you do face a potential employer in the office. They maintain a job bank of positions that are available. And the success is reflected in our placement rate, almost 90% within 6 months of graduation. And that's job placement within the field. That's not lining up a barista position of the coffee shop. That's a job in architecture and design. We're pleased, proud of that, and that's because of the career services people. So their plan does work, and our training gets you set for a career in the field that you've chosen. We have global connections. We are part of a network of schools around the world, and we stay in touch with. We have student exchanges. We have faculty exchanges. We have on campus here in San Diego a very diverse student body, one of the most diverse in California, which makes it one of the most diverse in the entire country. We're proud of that. We like that diversity. We think it adds to the program. And along with that comes opportunities to study abroad, to experience other cultures, other ways of thinking about architecture and design. And we have another image and talk a little bit more about study abroad opportunities. We've had programs in places like the famous pilgrimage town Compostela in Spain, in Porto, Portugal, with an opportunity to visit out the Preschool Prize winner, Alvaro Siza, and studios in Rome. We're looking now at developing new programs in Peru, which would be our first in South America, something I'm very keen about, and a program in Milan with the sister school Domus Academy. So the study abroad menu changes almost every year, so stay tuned for what offerings will be coming. We encourage graduate students to travel and to explore those options. We're in the East Village neighborhood of San Diego. It's considered the Arts District, and now it's known as the IDEA District. IDEA stands for Innovation, Design, Education, and the Arts. We've been one of the key foundational partners in the IDEA District, the education piece, but I think IDEA really refers to everything we do at the New School. It's a dynamic environment moving towards sort of a 24-center live-work place, and we're very pleased to be part of the IDEA District. So let's talk a little bit about life as a New School student, the kinds of things you will experience here. Studio life is a key part of it. That is, for many students, the main focus of academia, and indeed in the graduate program, studios are where so much happens. It's not only where you spend a lot of time and have your design studio classes, it becomes social space, it becomes debate space, it becomes project space. So studio, and you have dedicated studio space, is important. The class sizes at the graduate level are small. We keep them that way so that there's close interaction with faculty, and on-site and very convenient to the studios and classrooms are comprehensive materials lab, which has everything from hand tools to CNC routers and large and small scale 3D printers, casting beds for concrete and so forth. We have a print center, which is available for plotting and reprographics right around the corner from all of this as well. So we have the facilities you need to support what you're doing in your program. And speaking of programs, I want to mention one thing on this slide we haven't said much about, and that's human-centered design. That is kind of an ethos behind all of the graduate programs. The need to keep people in mind and keep people first in the way we think about architecture and the way we design. So you probably want to know something about the various graduate programs. There are several different ways to earn a graduate degree in New School, and you see them listed here. The MArch 2 or 3 year program is the first professional degree. That's the key phrase you want for licensure in architecture in the US. The 3 year track, actually 10 quarters, 3 years plus a summer, is for people who come into the program without an undergraduate degree in architecture, and we have people coming from a range of backgrounds. The 2 year program, 6 quarter, is for those who have an undergraduate 4 year, either Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science in architecture and looking for that first professional degree. That's the large majority of our graduate students. There's a 1 year Master of Science. It's a degree that stresses thesis research and the development of a 3 quarter thesis project. There's also a Master of Architectural Studies, like the MS, a 1 year program where the emphasis is really on design methodology, performative design, and the ability to strengthen your design process as you move forward. We are one of the charter schools involved in the Integrated Pathway to Architectural Licensure known as IPAL, and I'll spend a few minutes talking about the IPAL program in case you're interested in that aspect of the school. I do want to mention 2 certificate programs, one in neuroscience for architecture. New School is really one of the leaders in bringing neuroscience to bear in our understanding of architecture and the built environment. And we have a certificate in healthy urbanism as well, which we think goes hand in hand with neuroscience and has been a strength of this school for many years. Let's talk a little bit about IPAL. The program is predicated on the 3 E's. You see them on this chart: education, experience, examination. And the idea behind this, in responding to the National Council of Architectural Registration Board, was to integrate these 3 elements in a condensed way to help students make not only an experience in architectural education, but in internship and licensure part of their educational package. It is a longer program by 1 year than our traditional 2- and 3-year graduate degrees, but it does integrate the work experience and the exam test taking as you go. The program began here at the graduate level. We just found it to be a natural with the way the graduate program was structured and with our emphasis on preparation for practice. Our faculty, many of them are active practitioners, as am I. So we're keenly interested in what goes on outside of school. Internships begin in the 2nd year if you're starting with the 4+3 curriculum, and those internship hours are paid. We ask students to track the 6 sections of the architectural registration exam, the ARE, 2 sections a year at a minimum. And the final year is a practicum, which is essentially a full-time position that allows you to finish the program if you desire somewhere other than San Diego. So there's a lot of flexibility in this program. We're very excited about it. We launched it this year with a strong cohort, and we look forward to a good incoming group this year as well. You see on this very simple timeline diagram that it does condense the program. At the graduate level, we've often had students come in and work while they were in school anyway, and that's okay, as long as people can juggle and manage school and internship. IPAL formalizes that process. It does reduce the amount of time to licensure. We think that's an important step in the process. We work with a number of collaborators in terms of local and regional design firms. You see some names here. That list has grown substantially since we put the slide together. We have a great relationship with firms in the San Diego area, always have. We think that's an important part of the program, and we include these firm principals in our advisory boards, and we really seek their input, their guidance, their collaboration along the way, not only in the IPAL program, but at all levels of the graduate program. So let's talk a little bit about what students do. This is a picture of Grace Lee. Grace just graduated from the 4+3 program. She came here with an interest in neuroscience. You can see her project name. She gave a paper before leaving the program at the Psychology of Architecture conference in 2016. Keenly interested in this. Her thesis work involved neuroscience as it relates to incarceration. This is something she wants to move forward with and begin to explore. And we're happy to accommodate people like Grace in the program. And we encourage graduate students to think about the neuroscience connection. We think it's one of the new frontiers in architecture. Here's something very different, a design build project in one of our graduate courses. One of our faculty, Robin Briesbaugh, brought students together to develop something called Writer's Block Art Wall in Southeast San Diego. This is an area designed to get graffiti writers into a space where they could be creative, get them away from tagging people's property and into an art center where they could really put their talents on display. And lastly, the STEAM Pavilion, STEAM, Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. We designed the pavilion and the furniture for an event here in East Village. It received a special Orchid Award in the local design competition and a special mention from Architizer website. Another example of students designing award-winning work and also building it, which we think is an opportunity grad students should have. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Teresa to make a few comments about the process here.
Okay. Well, thanks, Kurt. Great overview of our graduate offerings here at New School, and please keep the questions coming. I do see them scrolling through, and we will address them very shortly. I wanted to take this opportunity to answer some commonly asked questions regarding our application review process. So please take a look at this slide and join me here as I go through that. You know, the steps to apply, we try to make it as easy as possible. And before I dive in, I just want to let you know that every single student at New School who decides to apply gets assigned their own enrollment specialist. So that would be me or one of my colleagues. And you know, we really help with every single part of the research phase. We also give tours and help with the steps to apply. That would start with the online application. It'll take you 10 minutes. It's your name and address and where you went to school in the past, things like that. There is an online application fee, but very important to note that if you are attending this webinar right now and decide to apply, you will not have to pay that. This is probably also a really good side note opportunity to let you know that we have our open house tomorrow. And if you attend that, it's a great chance to meet myself or Kurt, have a little bit of a light breakfast with us. That does start at 11 a.m. And check our website or social media for any other details about that, or give us a call. Okay, so online application fee. We need your transcripts. Any questions about that, let us know. There is in the graduate level a minimum GPA requirement of 2.7, 3.0 if you're applying to IPAL, as it is a pretty competitive program. And last but not least, a statement of purpose. Like any college essay, but we can send you some of the prompts that our professors will expect you to respond to. Now, for international applicants, there are English language requirements, and depending on maybe your track, if you are applying to IPAL, there may still be some extra steps. So I can't say it enough. I know I sound like a broken record, but let us know if you have any questions. That's why we're here.
I want to mention also something not on the list, the portfolio requirement. If you're applying to the 4+3 program and coming in with a degree in biology, let's say, English Lit, history, and we've had applicants with all of those degrees, you haven't done design work. We're not expecting to see accomplished architectural design from you. What we're really looking for is design potential. We're looking for creativity. Perhaps you've written something creatively in that English Lit program. Submit that. That's your portfolio. Years ago, we had a songwriter submit his songs to us, which demonstrated creativity. The portfolio sometimes scares applicants who aren't used to the architectural design process or applying to programs, and I want to assure you that we understand that, and for those without a design background, what we're really looking for is creativity and potential. So I did want to mention that along the way.
Great point. And you know, portfolio requirements may vary depending on the program you're applying to, so we'll cross that bridge individually. We do have a tuition and fees are all available on our website. Of course, that information will vary as well from program to program. You can see our total per academic year tuition listed on the slide here, $27,687. Please keep in mind that we do have, and we'll move to this slide in a moment, a robust scholarship program with what can I say? I mean, we really want qualified students. So if you have a high GPA, your chances of being awarded scholarships are higher. If you have financial need, which we find out from your FAFSA, then there are scholarships that are need-based as well. So merit and need-based scholarships for students who are eligible. And We also have military and veteran benefits. We consider ourselves to be a very military-friendly school. We can talk a lot about that. And so if you have any questions specifically for a financial aid representative, we do have someone here on campus who can respond to those questions and anything else that's finance related. In addition to, we're a very small school, so in addition to working with an enrollment specialist like me, you will also be assigned someone in finance to help with all of those questions. I mean, we can answer some of the initial questions like, hey, Teresa, where can I find scholarships on your website? No problem, I can answer that. But when you start getting into, hey, what's school actually going to cost me? That's when we'll get you in contact with a financial aid advisor. So feel free to reach them directly, or we can even set an appointment for you. Anything to help you with that process. What am I forgetting? Okay, question and answer, it's time. So I'll just go in order here. We do have a few, and we'll figure out what questions are for whom. The first one is, what types of projects are you looking for in a graduate architecture portfolio?
Okay, good question. Good starting question. It's not the project so much as the potential. We like to see a range of media. We want to know that, and I'm going to assume here someone coming in maybe to the 4+2 program or the Master of Architectural Studies with a previous design background. We want to see ability both in analog tools, hand drawing and so forth, model building, and some familiarity with the digital tools. We teach courses in all of these skills at New School, but for advanced placement, we want to know that people have that level of ability. In terms of design work per se, we have portfolios that have projects at small scale, at the scale of a house or maybe an individual studio, all the way to large institutional buildings. And we really don't look for one or the other. It's about process. It's about engaging those pillars I talked about earlier, and that can and should happen at a range of scales.
Great. Thank you. And thank you, Brian Brown, for that question. Good one. The next question we have, what are some of the benefits of learning your MArch degree, which is short for the Master of Architecture? So Kurt, what are some of those benefits to an MArch?
Well, one of those, obviously, Teresa, is licensure. In almost all 50 states, I think right now it's somewhere around 45 and counting, a first professional degree from an accredited school of architecture is required to be licensed. We understand that not everyone wants to be licensed, is seeking licensure, but that's a standard we go by and we work towards. We also think this is excellent preparation to go into a firm and be effective, and our placement numbers, I think, really support that. And what our outside advisors, our advisory board members who are firm principals tells us really supports that as well. I think a design education prepares you not only for architecture, but for construction management. It prepares you for real estate development. It prepares you for design roles in other fields. And we've had graduates become successful in areas well outside of architecture. So there are a number of things you can do with a design background and a design education.
I did not know how you would sum that up. That was a very good question and a great answer. I have another good one. I think we may have woven in this answer somewhere in our presentation, but someone did ask, is it more competitive to get into the IPAL program than it is to get into other MArch programs?
Simple answer is yes. And the reason for that is with the internship component, we want to ensure that all the students in the IPAL program have the internships they're required to take when they need them, which, as I said, begins with the second year of the program for those coming in without a prior architectural degree. So It's very much about maintaining the quality of that internship experience and working closely with our employer partners. So we do limit the enrollment in that program. We do monitor that very carefully. And frankly, we want to be sure that people will be successful. It's an intense program. It combines full-time graduate study with part-time work during the school year, along with test taking at the appropriate times. It's a handful. So it may not be for everyone along the way. We understand it.
Absolutely. And how large are your graduate architecture studios? What is the average age?
Okay, well, two questions there. The size of the studios typically is around 10 or 11 in a section. And at the graduate level, they're all taught by full and part-time faculty. We do not use TAs to teach studio sections. Average age at the school of graduate students is in the mid to late 20s. We do have students come into the program who've been out of school for a while. It varies, sometimes out a year or two, sometimes longer, as well as those who move directly from an undergraduate program into a Master of Architecture. So they tend to be mid to upper 20s.
Okay, good to know. A couple more. We're just going to take a quick break from the questions, and I want to just interject here that we want you to take a poll when you get a chance if you're following us here. Take a moment to write down your desired start date, whether that's fall of this year. We start in October, believe it or not. We are actually still seeing applications for this fall. If you're thinking about next year, write that in as well. And we're on a quarter system, so feel free to even specify October, fall, January, winter, spring, whatever works best for you. Okay, back to the questions. Can you talk a little bit more about neuroscience for architecture and the healthy urbanism certificates that are offered? Are those focuses good for an international student to pursue?
Excellent question. I'm always happy to talk about those two programs. They are a strength here. So let's start with neuroscience for architecture. The school has been involved in this study ever since the idea was really developed in 2003 and launched with the advent of the Academy of Neuroscience for Architecture, otherwise known as ANFA, in San Diego in that year. We taught classes from the very beginning at New School. They're integrated in the School of Architecture here. And we think and evidence shows it's increasingly important to understand how we perceive the environment so we can do a better job designing in it. We see, particularly in the design of facilities like housing for the elderly and acute care facilities, the need to get it right and the need to design properly sometimes can be a matter of life and death. And that's where neuroscience and this understanding of brain process and perception comes into play. So we offer this coursework. The certificate is a 4-quarter, 4-course sequence. It's an option among the two certificate programs that are required. You take either neuroscience or healthy urbanism in the MS program and the Master of Architectural Studies. It's elective at the graduate program at the other level, but we find many students opting for one of those because they see the value in it. Neuroscience for architecture is becoming an international phenomenon. The graduate program hosted this summer, this past August, our first ever summer intersession in neuroscience. We had students from 10 different countries here. And we expect to see more of that level of interest. So I know there's an interest out there around the world in the topic, and we want to help out where we can. Healthy urbanism is something we've been teaching for a long time at the school that we think is important. The design of cities goes hand in hand with the design of buildings and individual environments, and we simply have to get it right. We know now that choice in transportation and Streets that are perceived as safer than others are important elements of design, and we can control those things. And that program is designed to help students understand this and become more effective designers at the urban scale. Again, there's a certificate available that's a 4-course sequence in the graduate program. It is one of the options at the MS and MAS levels, and it's an elective option for all graduate students. So I encourage you to look into those programs. If you do come to New School, talk to some of the faculty. They're keen proponents of both of those subject areas, and consider those as elective courses.
Great. And what are some ways that graduate architecture students can get involved in community projects?
Okay. Community projects, that urban engagement piece. That is something that is critical to us. We have for many years taken on actual projects within San Diego and in the region. We do it in our design studios, our regularly scheduled studios. We also offer a course through our New School Design Clinic, which gets students in front of real clients to do things ranging from feasibility studies for rebuilding the old Globe Theater in Balboa Park to designing and building a house for a victim of one of the wildfires that came through San Diego and were so devastating several years ago. The clinic's been involved the last couple of years in work in a remote village in Peru that began with the design of a medical clinic and has evolved into housing and classrooms and all kinds of things. There are plenty of opportunities for students to be involved in the community. And one of the things also I should mention is the community sees us as a valuable resource. We are often the place where community groups come to meet because to them we're neutral ground. And for instance, when there were all kinds of discussions about designing and developing a professional football stadium in downtown San Diego, which was a heated argument, groups met at New School to talk about those issues and to debate them. So we're part of the community, we involve the community, we get out in front of it, and we encourage students to do that as part of their education.
Even in enrollment, I still get questions from the community sometimes. That's usually me sending those questions to you. But there is a lot of community involvement. We're very proud of that. Next question. Do you require work experience to apply to a Master of Architecture degree at New School? Should we include a resume with that application?
We don't require the work experience. A resume will be expected if you're interested in the IPAL program. It can be very, very helpful for any of our regular programs as well. More information, the better. It's not a requirement per se, but if you feel there is something important that shows up on a resume that might not show up elsewhere, definitely include it. And again, the work experience component may be helpful to your application. It's not a requirement.
Great. And how would being in the IPAL program affect opportunities such as study abroad, extracurricular activities, or teaching? This is a question from Caitlin Taylor. Great question, Caitlin.
Okay, very good question. It does have some impact on study abroad. For instance, if you go into the IPAL program for students without an undergraduate in architecture, it's actually a 4-year IPAL for those students. That first summer is open, and if you were interested in a study abroad program, that would be the time to do it. After that, it's most likely you're going to be in an internship in the summers. And one thing I also want to point out, that last year of the IPAL program, the year that does extend it, is full-time internship. So I want to make sure everyone's aware of that. In terms of flexibility within that program, you do want to be careful. And I tell students when I meet with them, you want to know your limits, you want to know your ability to manage your time, be reasonable, be realistic. We have students, good students who come into the program and are successful. And we had a couple students last year decide to move back into the traditional program because it was a little more than they wanted to take on. So there is some flexibility. It is more limited than the other program. I think there were other parts to the question. I want to make sure.
Study abroad, extracurricular, or teaching opportunities. She just wants to see if IPAL would affect that.
I think extracurricular activities, there are opportunities for those. The way the graduate program is structured, virtually all of our required coursework occurs after 1 p.m. So the internships typically are in mornings. But if we have a lecture scheduled in the evening and we have an excellent lecture series, I want graduate students there. So we're going to make time in our coursework to be sure people attend and take advantage of these additional opportunities to learn. It's part of the program. And the last part of it had to do with teaching. We do have graduate teaching assistantships available. We work with students to make sure it fits your schedule and makes sense with what you're doing.
Great, thank you. A couple more for you, Kurt. Once you are in the master's program, can you move or transfer to the IPAL program? You had just mentioned that some who maybe find that the IPAL isn't for them, they can transfer out, go into the regular track. What about for folks who maybe either didn't qualify or didn't want to do IPAL and then get into our grad programs and say, oh, I should have done that accelerated track?
Fair question. It is possible. In fact, we have a couple applicants this year who began in the 4+3 program, the traditional program last year, saw the benefit in the IPAL program and are applying to transfer into it. So you can do that, absolutely.
Okay, great. And do you offer a certificate in interior design? Can I find more about that opportunity?
There is a certificate offered at the undergraduate level, and the interior design program currently is undergraduate. However, I want to encourage students when they take electives to think as broadly as possible and take subject areas that interest them. We can make some of those undergraduate courses available to graduate students along the way. And also, since we're talking about interior architecture, from time to time we have sponsored collaborative studios involving graduate architecture students, undergraduate interior design students, in the design of healthcare facilities. They've been fabulous studios. I like to think, and maybe I'm biased, that the graduate students have helped pull the undergraduates up, but it's truly a collaborative effort, and we encourage that kind of cross-disciplinary thinking and activity.
Right. For the prerequisite for the 4+3 program, would algebra or calculus-based physics be accepted? Would conceptual physics be accepted?
I'd need to know more about what you covered conceptually in the conceptual physics to be able to answer that. My guess is algebra and calculus-based physics is probably going to suffice. We're really looking for an initial college physics course that deals with statics, that deals with equilibrium, forces and movement, because this is the lead into statics and the structure sequence, and those are the things it's all about. I would say I could be more helpful, more specific if I had a course description to go along with that. We'd be happy to look at that.
Fair enough. But the bottom line that I always drive home to students is we never want anyone to repeat any work they've already done. Of course, if you haven't done the work, then we need to make sure you cover that. Okay, when do you start the certificates? Semester 1, or do you have time to decide after 1 or 2 semesters?
It depends on the program you're in. If you're in one of the one-year programs, you will need to decide upfront as part of the moving into the program. That would be the Master of Science or the Master of Architectural Studies, as those are both one-year programs. In the MArch-1, the first professional degree tracks, you have time, not something you have to do in that first year, and in many cases, students wait on that anyway. So if depending on your program, you may need to decide early, you may not need to, and we'd be happy to talk to you about what's involved in both of them, so you make the right decision.
Great. And last but not least, and by the way, thank you, Jonathan Blank, for asking some really good questions about the prereqs. Just wanted to make sure I gave you a little shout out there, because these are very important and popular questions that we get in enrollment. So last one for now anyway, Kurt, is are there prerequisite courses like calculus or an art and design class for those who don't have a previous degree related to architecture? Again, great question.
We do offer those. In fact, in the prior summer, we offer a physics and trig class to get students ready for that coursework. We offer drawing and design classes. I'm not so concerned about that. If you haven't had the prior background, you're a typical 4+3 student, and we teach you those things in the first year of the program. So I wouldn't worry about that so much. The design work is something we'll handle and we'll get you up to speed on.
True. If you have prereqs to complete, you're in very good company. I would say the 3-year MArch is our most popular graduate program by far. So one last chance to participate in our poll. Please let us know your desired start date, and if you know it, perhaps the quarter or year that you would like to start in your Master of Architecture. Again, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We love doing these webinars with you, and thank you, Kurt, for joining us.
Sure.
I would just like to let you know that for attending one more time, you do get to waive your application fee. So that's $75 that you don't have to pay. And one last invite, we do have our open house tomorrow. It starts at 11 a.m. sharp. If you can get here a few minutes early, you'll be able to speak with faculty, staff, get some answers to maybe some personalized questions, and have a little breakfast with us. Definitely say hi to me. I'll be running around somewhere giving tours. And again, my name is Teresa. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, folks.